guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is the second book in an adult fantasy trilogy that is the Shades of Magic trilogy, I believe. It's the second book in the A Darker Shade of Magic series. So I can't say much about the first book, but I'll leave my review up above if you haven't read it, and you can go and check that out. So this picks up pretty much right after the events of A Darker Shade of Magic. It's about, I think it's maybe about 3 months, but Lila's being a pirate, and Kel's being miserable and mopey, and things continue kind of as they were. So first off, we talk about the world building with this series. I really do enjoy the world building of the series. I think the world building is some of the best parts of this series. I really do enjoy V.E. Schwab's worlds. I've said before that I don't tend to really get along with V.E. Schwab's adult books for some reason. I really enjoy her YA, but her adult just like doesn't mesh with me for some reason. But I really do like her worlds. I like the concept of these worlds. I like the whole parallel world traveling. I like the magic thing. I don't think it's as explained as it could be, and things are kind of just dropped in very conveniently sometimes, especially with the magic system, but I do find that forgivable. So I do like that. Not much more to say about that. Next, let me talk about the characters. I enjoyed the characters more in this book than I enjoyed them in the last book, and there were some new characters that I enjoyed a lot more. So this book I ultimately liked a little bit more than the last book for that reason. I do still find Lila as a main character to be insufferable. I just feel that she is a self-insert character for the author in a lot of ways. I know that the author is very fiercely defensive of her, and it comes through even in the writing. She is supposed to be a character that you feel is very unique and very different, and you're supposed to really like, and I don't, because I feel like the author is beating you over the head with, like her, love her, she's so cool, and I'm like, no, she's not. She's tropey, and I've seen her before. I've seen the thief character who has had a hard life and trusts no one, even though they should, because they've had this whole book where they, like, have formed bonds with people, but now it's like, no, run away. I've seen it, and I feel like it's been done even better in other books where I don't like that kind of character, but it's still done better in. I just don't like her as a character. I don't find her to be different or unique or anything. I find her mostly bratty, and I think it's her confidence too, because you can be brave because you've gone through a lot, but her confidence, she should be more unsettled, I think, sometimes. Like, I feel like a lot of what her background is supposed to be versus what she ends up being is very different and mismatched, and I just don't like her. I just don't like her. She annoys me. She annoys me. And then we have Kel, who I've always liked better than Lila, but he's still also a little irritating. He's just very mopey, and the whole book is basically him just kind of moping around, and again, it's because of what's happened to him in the first book and how people are like shut down to him or whatever. I get it, but it's very like, do we need a whole book about this? Do we need a whole book about him just like moping around and just making kind of more dumb decisions and just kind of being like that? And it is annoying that the royal family is so like against him now. I think that also is kind of a flaw with the characters in the world building, because it's like, wow, shouldn't you be a little more grateful to everything he's done for you over his entire life? Like, you're really going to be this shitty? You're really going to treat him like he's not your kid even though you raised him this whole time? Like, you're going to be like this? But whatever, it's a flaw. I really enjoy his relationship with Rye as a character as well, their brotherly relationship, their love for each other, I've always really liked, and I enjoy seeing more of Rye and seeing kind of their interactions and now how they're bonded and what that means and everything else. And I just wish we had, I guess, even more of that? I don't know. But as far as my favorite character, it's obviously Alucard Emery, the sassy pirate, sassy bisexual pirate. Like, I love him. And he was such a great addition to the story, but again, it's like we didn't get enough of him. And then there's just stuff about the plot, which I'll talk about in a second, which was just kind of like, why are we just kind of plugging along doing nothing? Why are we just plugging along doing nothing? So lastly, let me talk about the plot. Nothing really happened in this book. Like, if you go back and look at, you know, if you read it and you go back and look at what happened, it's not a lot. You know, you're just kind of building up to a big event at the end, which is kind of glossed over and should be way cooler and just isn't. And then you have this big event at the end, which happens in the last chapter, that could have just been tacked on to the first book or could have been tacked on to the beginning of the last book. Like, we don't need this whole book for that to happen. And so you're just kind of plodding along like, when's the action gonna happen? And I feel like the pacing's really off, and I feel like the same thing was true of A Darker Shade of Magic. I feel like the same thing happened in Darker Shade of Magic, where it's just kind of like, nothing's happening, boom! And for me, like, the ending doesn't always make up for the rest of the story, and that's very true for this, because I really do feel like nothing was really happening. You don't get a ton of character stuff that makes me really love it. If I love the characters more, I might like it more, but since I don't like the characters that much, or I don't like the main characters that much, it just wasn't that enjoyable for me. So I wanted to like it more than I did. I always want to like books more than I do when I read them and don't like them. But ultimately this was a book where nothing happened, and it suffered from middle book syndrome. And I wanted more. So I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. So comment down below and let me know what you thought of A Gathering of Shadows. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all you guys soon. Bye!